There's a special kind of pain that comes from being invisible, not literally invisible, but invisible to the people who matter, invisible to power, invisible to justice, invisible to the person you love. You can scream and no one hears. You can suffer and no one cares. You can be destroyed and the world just moves on. That's what it means to be insulted and injured. Today we're diving into one of Dostoevsky's most emotionally devastating novels, a story about everyone who's ever been crushed by forces beyond their control, the betrayed lovers, the abandoned children, the falsely accused, the one society stepped on and forgot. Written in 1861, The Insulted and Injured is where Dostoevsky stops being a promising young writer and becomes the Dostoevsky we know, the master of psychological depth, moral complexity, and unflinching examinations of human suffering. This novel has everything: a narrator dying of love for a woman who chose someone else, an angelic young man too weak to resist his demonic father, an orphan child bearing the sins of her parents, and one of literature's most purely evil villains, a man who destroys lives not out of passion or madness, but out of cold, rational self-interest. It's melodramatic. It's influenced heavily by Charles Dickens. It sometimes feels like a 19th century soap opera. But it's also profound, psychologically brilliant, and heartbreakingly real. Because we've all been there, powerless, humiliated, watching helplessly as the people we love make terrible choices or as evil people win without consequences. Critics at the time called it too sentimental, too much like Dickens, too soap operatic, and they weren't entirely wrong. This novel has everything: unrequited love, evil aristocrats, orphan children, deathbed confessions, scheming villains, suffering innocence. But here's what makes it brilliant. Beneath all that melodrama, Dostoevsky is working out the themes that will define his greatest masterpieces: good versus evil, the suffering of innocence, the question of whether love can survive in a cruel world, the psychology of manipulation. This is where Dostoevsky becomes Dostoevsky. So let's enter the world of St. Petersburg in the 1840s, a world of crumbling confectionaries, dying dogs, heartbroken lovers, and one of the most purely evil characters in all of literature, Prince Valkovsky. Welcome to The Insulted and Injured, a story about everyone who's ever been crushed, humiliated, and broken by people with power, which, let's be honest, is most of us. Part 1. The Dying Dog. A heartbreaking prologue, the novel opens in a German confectionery shop near Voznesensky Prospect in St. Petersburg. It's a shabby place where people come to warm themselves and nurse cheap cups of coffee. And there's an old man who sits there every day. His name is Smith, Jeremy Smith, though he's clearly Russian despite the foreign name. He's ancient skeletal, dressed in rags. And he has a dog, a faithful old mongrel named Azorka. Every day, Smith sits by the stove staring blankly, saying nothing. The other customers find him disturbing, irritating. He's poor, he's dirty, he's taking up space. One evening, a particularly cruel customer complains loudly about Smith's impoliteness, his habit of staring. Terrified, humiliated Smith hurries out into the cold March evening. But Azorka, his beloved companion, collapses and dies right there on the street. Smith is devastated. This dog was his only friend, his only connection to anything living, and now it's gone. Our narrator, a young writer named Ivan Petrovich, or Vanya, witnesses this scene and follows Smith. The old man staggers through the streets, collapses, and dies that very night. Why does Dostoevsky open with this scene? Because it sets the tone for everything that follows. This is a world where the powerless are humiliated, where even small cruelties like complaining about an old man's stare can kill, and he lives by this philosophy ruthlessly. Years ago, Valkovsky employed Nikolai Ixmanev to manage his estates. Nikolai was loyal, hard-working, honest, and Valkovsky destroyed him, falsely accused him of embezzlement, ruined his reputation, took everything from him. Why? Not out of necessity. Not even out of anger, just because he could, because Nikolai was in his way. Now Valkovsky has a new scheme. He wants to marry Alyosha off to a wealthy heiress named Katia. This would secure the family fortune and give Valkovsky even more power. But Alyosha's in love with Natasha. Poor disgraced Natasha. That's unacceptable. So Valkovsky sets out to destroy their relationship. And he does it methodically, psychologically, cruelly. He manipulates Alyosha. He plants doubts. He arranges for Alyosha to spend time with Katya, who is sweet, innocent, and falls for Alyosha. He slowly, carefully turns his weak-willed son away from Natasha, and the worst part, Alyosha doesn't even realize he's being manipulated. He genuinely believes he's making his own choices. Dostoevsky would later create other evil characters, Fyodor Karamazov, Stavrogin, but Prince Valkovsky's the prototype. He's evil not because he's insane or passionate, but because he's coldly, rationally selfish. Part 5. Nellie, the suffering child. Running parallel to the Natasha Alyosha story is another plotline, the story of Nellie. Nellie is a 13-year-old orphan girl. When Vanya first meets her, she's living with an elderly woman named Bubnova, a vicious, abusive monster who beats her, starves her, and is actively trying to sell her to a wealthy pedophile. Yes, the novel goes there. This is Dostoevsky post-Siberia, having seen the absolute worst of humanity, and he's not holding back. Vanya rescues Nellie and brings her to live in his apartment. She's sick, traumatized, epileptic, like Dostoevsky himself. She barely speaks. She's been so damaged by life that she can't trust anyone. Slowly, painfully, Vanya earns her trust, and Nellie begins to tell her story. Her mother was a gentlewoman who was seduced and abandoned by an aristocrat. She gave birth to Nellie in disgrace, lived in poverty, and eventually died of tuberculosis, but not before making Nellie promise never to reveal who her father was. That aristocrat. That's the mystery Dostoevsky slowly unveils. Nellie is another of the insulted and injured, a child who did nothing wrong but is punished by society for her mother's sin, an innocent crushed by the cruelty of class and social judgment. The influence of Dickens is obvious here. Think of Oliver Twist, Little Nell. Dostoevsky read Dickens during his Siberian exile, and you can see it in how he writes Nellie. Sentimental, yes, but also deeply empathetic to childhood suffering. Part 6. The manipulation, Valkovsky's master plan. As the novel progresses, Prince Valkovsky's scheme becomes clearer. He wants Alyosha to marry Katya, the wealthy heiress, but Alyosha loves Natasha, so Valkovsky needs to break them up, subtly without seeming like the villain. His method is psychological genius. First, he arranges for Alyosha to spend time with Katya. She's sweet, innocent, kind, everything a proper aristocratic bride should be, and she falls for Alyosha's charm. Second, he plants doubts in Alyosha's mind, whispers that Natasha is too intense, too demanding, suggests that maybe Alyosha could be happy with someone easier, simpler. Third, he uses Alyosha's weakness. Alyosha wants everyone to be happy. He hates conflict, so when his father suggests he could make Katya happy and make his father happy and secure the family fortune, Alyosha starts to waver. The brilliance of Valkovsky's manipulation is that he never forces anything. He just arranges circumstances so that Alyosha makes the choice himself. Meanwhile, Natasha sees what's happening. She watches Alyosha slipping away, and instead of fighting for him, instead of demanding better, she martyrs herself. She tells Alyosha he should marry Katya. She'll step aside, she'll sacrifice her happiness for his. It's noble, it's heartbreaking, and it plays right into Valkovsky's hands. Part 7. The confrontation, Vanya versus Valkovsky. There's a pivotal scene where Vanya confronts Prince Valkovsky directly. They meet in a restaurant, and Valkovsky, relaxed, drinking wine, explains his philosophy to Vanya. He says, everyone is selfish. Everyone acts in their own interest. The difference between him and good people is that he's honest about it. He doesn't pretend to be moral. He doesn't lie to himself. He mocks concepts like love, honor, sacrifice. These are just stories weak people tell themselves to feel better about being powerless, and then he delivers the crushing blow. You think you're Natasha's savior? You're just another man in love with her. You help her because it makes you feel good. You're no different from me. You just lie to yourself about your motivations. Vanya is devastated because there's some truth to it. He is helping Natasha partly because he loves her. His motives aren't purely selfless. But here's where Dostoevsky shows his genius. The novel doesn't entirely agree with either of them. Yes, Vanya's love is partly selfish, but it's also genuinely compassionate. He's suffering for Natasha, really suffering. That counts for something. And yes, people are often selfish. But Valkovsky's philosophy is monstrous precisely because it denies that love, sacrifice, and compassion exist at all. The confrontation is Dostoevsky working out a question that will dominate his later work. Can genuine goodness exist? Or is all human behavior ultimately selfish? Part 8. The Revelation, Nellie's Secret. Remember Nellie, the orphan girl Vanya rescued? The novel has been slowly building toward a revelation about her identity. We learn that her mother was seduced by an aristocrat who promised to marry her, then abandoned her when she got pregnant. And the aristocrat who ruined her? Prince Valkovsky. Yes, the same Prince Valkovsky who's manipulating Alyosha, the same monster who destroyed the Eichmann family. Nellie's mother was Valkovsky's legitimate wife, his first marriage, which he concealed to avoid scandal and remarry advantageously. When she threatened to reveal the truth, he destroyed her reputation, drove her into poverty, and left her to die. And the old man Smith, the one who died in the opening pages with his dog. He was Nellie's grandfather. He'd been searching for his daughter and granddaughter for years. He found them too late. His daughter already dead, his granddaughter traumatized and abused. This revelation connects everything. Nellie and Alyosha are half-siblings. The families are all connected through Valkovsky's web of cruelty, and it shows the full scope of Valkovsky's evil. He didn't just ruin one family, he ruined multiple families across generations. He's a force of pure destruction. Part 9. The collapse. When everything falls apart, the climax of the novel is devastating. Alyosha, manipulated by his father and torn between Natasha and Katya, finally breaks. He chooses Katya, the safe choice, the socially acceptable choice, the choice that makes his father happy. Natasha is shattered. She's sacrificed everything, her family, her reputation, her future, for a man who abandoned her for money and status. But here's where Dostoevsky complicates things. Alyosha isn't happy about this choice. He genuinely loves Natasha. He's crying, he's miserable, but he's too weak to resist his father's will. Natasha, in her heartbreak, tries to reconcile with her parents. She goes to them, begs forgiveness, asks to come home. Her father, Nikolai, wants to forgive her. You can see it in his eyes. But his pride won't let him. He's been hurt too deeply, humiliated too publicly. He can't let go of his anger, so he rejects her again. And Natasha is left with nothing. No lover, no family, no future. Meanwhile, Nellie, the suffering child, dies. Her epilepsy worsens, her health deteriorates, and she dies young, having barely lived at all. Another innocent destroyed. Vanya watches all of this helplessly. He's powerless to stop any of it. All his love, all his efforts, all his suffering, none of it changes anything. Part 10. The ending. No happy resolutions. The novel ends without neat resolutions. Prince Valkovsky triumphs. He gets everything he wanted. Alyosha marries Katya, securing the family fortune. His troublesome first wife and daughter are dead. His secrets are safe. He faces no consequences for any of his cruelty. Evil wins. Natasha eventually reconciles with her parents, but the damage is done. She's broken, traumatized, her youth and happiness stolen from her. Alyosha's trapped in a marriage he didn't really want, controlled by a father he can't escape. Vanya survives, barely. He's sick, heartbroken, his life derailed by loving someone who couldn't love him back. And Nellie, the most innocent of all, is dead. This is Dostoevsky post-Siberia. He's seen suffering up close. He knows that good people don't always win, that love doesn't always conquer all, that evil often triumphs. It's bleak, devastatingly bleak. But there's also something defiant about it. Because even though the characters lose everything, they never stop trying to love, to help, to be good. Vanya keeps helping Natasha even when it destroys him. Natasha keeps trying to reconcile with her family. The Eichmanns keep trying to forgive. The insulted and injured keep getting up. Keep trying, keep hoping, and maybe that's the only victory available in a cruel world. Part 11. The deeper meaning. What Dostoevsky is exploring. So what is this melodramatic, Dickensian, soap operatic novel really about? First, the suffering of innocence. This is Dostoevsky's obsession, his central question: why do good people suffer? Why does Nellie, a child who did nothing wrong, endure abuse and die young? Why does Natasha lose everything for loving the wrong person? Why is Vanya punished for being loyal and compassionate? There's no answer. The universe doesn't care. Bad things happen to good people. That's just reality. But Dostoevsky doesn't accept that as the end of the story. He's searching for meaning and suffering, for redemption and pain. This novel doesn't find those answers yet, but it's asking the questions that will drive his later masterpieces. Second, the psychology of manipulation. Prince Valkovsky is a study in psychological control. He doesn't force people. He arranges circumstances so they make the choices he wants. He exploits weakness, plants doubt, uses people's own desires against them. This is Dostoevsky beginning to understand power dynamics, manipulation, the way some people use others as tools. Valkovsky is the prototype for all the manipulators in Dostoevsky's later work. He's rational evil, the kind that's hardest to fight because it doesn't look evil, it looks like logic. Third, unrequited love as self-destruction. Vanya's love for Natasha is killing him, literally. He's sick throughout the novel, and it's clear that his illness is connected to his emotional suffering. Why does he do it? Why does he keep helping her when it's destroying him? It's not healthy, but it's deeply human. We see this pattern again and again in Dostoevsky. Characters who love people who hurt them, who find purpose in suffering, who can't let go even when they should. Fourth, class and cruelty. The insulted and injured are mostly poor or fallen from grace. Nellie suffers because she's poor. Natasha is vulnerable because she lost her family's protection. The Ekmanevs are destroyed because they had no power to fight back. Prince Valkovsky can do whatever he wants because he's wealthy and aristocratic. Class is armor, but it's also powerful, moving, and deeply human. This is Dostoevsky emerging from the hell of Siberian exile and immediately writing about suffering. Not abstract philosophizing, but real, visceral, human pain, poverty, heartbreak, abuse, humiliation, the things he'd seen, the things he'd experienced, the things that haunted him. And he's asking, how do we survive this? How do we love in a world this cruel? How do we stay good when evil keeps winning? The insulted and injured are everywhere. They're the powerless, the vulnerable, the ones society crushes and forgets. The orphans, the betrayed lovers, the falsely accused, the abandoned, they're us. At our worst moments, at our most vulnerable, we're all Natasha or Vanya or Nellie. And Dostoevsky sees us. He knows our pain. And he tells us, keep going, keep loving, keep trying to be good. Even when it doesn't change anything, even when you lose, even when evil triumphs, because the alternative, giving up, becoming like Valkovsky, accepting that cruelty is all there is, that's worse than any suffering. The insulted and injured may lose every battle, but they win the war for their souls. They stay human in an inhuman world. And that, Dostoevsky suggests, is victory enough. Thanks for joining me through this dark, beautiful, heartbreaking story. Until next time, remember, suffering doesn't make you weak. How you bear it makes you who you are.